I just think we have to be very clear. She's charging, the other side is welcoming fraud.
What is happening to Fox News? That every conservative I know is asking this question. And here, with the help of our sponsor, MyBookie, we're going to just take a look at what's going on. I think the thing that really got to people, really sort of, first of all, there was the Arizona call. There was the call for Arizona that it had gone to Biden before anybody else made that call. Nobody else has made it still. And yet, Fox went with it. There were the bad polls saying that Trump was a goner and we were going to be wiped out in all these House and Senate elections. Then there was this, Neil Cavuto cutting off Kayleigh McEnany as she was making the case that this election was rigged.
To protect the franchise of the American people. We want an honest, accurate, lawful count. We want maximum sunlight. We want maximum transparency. We want every legal vote to be counted, and we want every illegal vote to be...
I just think we have to be very clear. She's charging, the other side is welcoming fraud and welcoming illegal voting. Unless she has more details to back that up, I can't in good countenance continue showing you this.
That is CNN level malfeasance. That is stooping to the level of the New York Times, a former newspaper. Because look, politics is a fight. People throw charges at one another all the time. The left never gets cut off. They only get amplified. The left lives in an echo chamber where everything they say, every charge they make can become a news story. Did Fox not cover Russian collusion? Did they say, well, they have no proof of Russian collusion, so we're just not going to cover this story? No, only the left does that. Only the left cuts off. Well, we're not sure about this Joe Biden laptop, this Hunter Biden laptop. It's only the left cuts off news stories that hurt their team. Now, Neil Cavuto, Fox News, is starting to do that as well. We saw an outtake of Sandra Smith as Trace Gallagher was interviewing a conservative lawyer who was also questioning the election. Sandra Smith thought she was off mic, but her mic was hot. And you could just hear her saying that these charges don't make any sense because we at Fox News have already called it. Here's that cut.
Whoever is decided to be the president, remember, just because CNN says, or even Fox News says that somebody's president doesn't make them president. So I think everybody wants to know that this was done properly and legally.
What is happening? Like, Trace, we've called it.
Yes, Trace, we called it. What a great line. I mean, Trace, if we have called it, the election is over. That's in the Constitution. If cable news calls the election, it's over. But that is partaking of the arrogance of American journalism. And this is the thing. Trump has been the spokesperson for those of us who feel that American journalism has become the corrupt mouthpiece of corporate globalism. That's basically what we're saying. We're saying, you know, you lie all the time. You tell stories that hurt Republican candidates. You tell stories that help Democrat candidates and never do the other. Now, Fox used to be an exception. If that's going to stop, I think our allegiance to Fox stops as well. So I'm not a wild bettor, and you shouldn't be either, but I do like an occasional flutter from time to time, as the British say. And it's betting season at MyBookie because nothing makes an event more exciting than putting a little money on it. And with the NFL season in full swing and the Masters beginning, it's a great time to get in on the action. Sometimes you have a gut feeling about a matchup, and sometimes you're just betting on your team because they're your team. Regardless, whether you've been betting for years or you're ready to play for the first time, MyBookie is your go-to this season. With the biggest online selection of bets and props, they've made it simple to win and easy to withdraw your cash. Head over to MyBookie to create an account. Just use the promo code CLAVEN to claim your 100% deposit match all the way up to $1,000. That means if you put $100 in, they'll give you another $100. It's an easy way to jumpstart your bankroll. NFL, NBA, and MLB, and everything else, they've got it all on tap, and it's never too late to get started on a winning season only at MyBookie. You know, some of this is just collegiality. It's people who feel like, hey, I know that reporter. He's a friend of mine. He's a buddy. We go to barbecues together. I don't want to see Trump attack him. That's what you're hearing, I think, with Chris Wallace here in this cut.
I believe that President Trump is engaged in the most direct, sustained assault on freedom of the press in our history. He has done everything he can to undercut the media, to try to delegitimize us. And I think his purpose is clear, to raise doubts when we report critically about him and his administration that we can be trusted. Back in 2017, he tweeted something that said far more about him than it did about us. Quote, "The fake news media is not my enemy. It is the enemy of the American people." After that statement, retired Admiral Bill McRaven, a Navy SEAL for 37 years, the man in charge of the missions that captured Saddam Hussein and that took down Osama bin Laden, Bill McRaven said this, quote, "This sentiment may be the greatest threat to democracy in my lifetime." Now, I got to say, I was a little surprised by that. Remember, this is a guy who fought the Soviet Union. This is an admiral who fought Islamic terrorism. But when I asked Bill about this was his response. Those threats, the Soviets, Islamic terrorism, those threats brought us together. Both the president and I swore an oath to the Constitution. And the First Amendment to that Constitution is freedom of the press. When the president says the media is the enemy of the people, to me, that undermines the Constitution. So I do think it is a tremendous threat to our democracy.
I have to tell you, the First Amendment is imprinted in gold lettering on every cell of my body. I am a First Amendment purist. I believe that the right to speak, the right to say what you have to say, is the first right. It should be in the First Amendment. It's a God-given right. The First Amendment protects it from the government. Everything that Chris Wallace said there is crap. It's not a threat for the president to criticize a press that has become completely one-sided, totally biased, and completely corrupt. After being hit with Russian collusion, after being impeached for a phone call to the Ukraine, after being told that, after watching his Supreme Court nominee called a serial rapist and the press basically supporting and amplifying those attacks, Donald Trump had every right to say what he says. He has every right to criticize this press. It is dishonest. It is an enemy to truth. It's an enemy to the very principles that we defend them for. But what Donald Trump didn't do is he didn't tap their phones like Obama did. He didn't try to criminalize their behavior like Obama did. Nothing he did threatened the actual operation of the press. All it did was call them to account. So to have Chris Wallace saying this is a great threat to the First Amendment, my question is, where's the threat? At what point were you kept from doing it? I mean, this is the kind of whininess. We got this from John Roberts when he was slapped down by Kayleigh McEnany. John Roberts is asking again and again and again, are you going to denounce white supremacy? And finally, Kayleigh McEnany slapped them down about this, and here he is complaining.
And for all of you on Twitter who are hammering me for asking that question, I don't care, because it's a question that needs to be asked, and clearly the president's Republican colleagues a mile away from here are looking for an answer for it too. So stop deflecting, stop blaming the media. I'm tired of it.
It's the media's fault. How many times does he have to answer that question? He's answered it 1,000,000 times. Chris Wallace asked it 1,000,000 times. Chris Wallace asked it during the debate. Are you going to denounce white supremacy? Why does he have to answer it? He has to answer it because he's a Republican. Republicans have to answer for everything any other Republican has ever done, where Democrats don't answer for anything ever. Now, look, my problem with the news media is not that there are open left-wingers and open right-wingers. I don't really pick on MSNBC that much. For instance, Rachel Maddow, I disagree with every word in her mouth, every thought in her head, but she strikes me as an honest person coming out with her commentary from the left. That's perfectly fine. The problem is that every outlet that pretends to be objective, that says all the news that's fit to print, that says the most trusted name in news, and now the network that says we report, you decide, they really decide for us. They are all one-sided. They're all on one side. Fox used to be a fair network. There used to be a lot of left-wing commentary, and the only thing that drove the left crazy was that they allowed commentary like Sean Hannity's and Bill O'Reilly's and now Mark Levin's, and that's what drove the left crazy. One network that had the voice of half the country, and that was demonized and it was attacked. Obama tried to keep them out of press conferences. That was the enemy. That was the enemy of the people. Now they've broken. They have been broken by those attacks. They have been broken by attacks that they frequently deserved. And now they have joined with their colleagues in being part of this biased empire of lies. If that happens to Fox News will be finished. There is no business model where a conservative cable channel becomes just another left-wing voice and continues to thrive. There is no business model where that takes place. But don't worry, we've got your back. The Daily Wire will be here. The Blaze will be here. We can build it new venues that do what they did. We've seen it done now, and now we can do it ourselves. I think Fox is making a tremendous mistake, and I hope they pull back from the brink. I know that Trump has slapped them around, but maybe they ought to ask themselves what all the media should ask themselves about Trump's slaps. Did we deserve them? Here's the answer. Yes, you did.